Friends, China has declared a new kind of war on the United States. This is a war in economics and trade, which will bring our defenses to its knees, which can bring our economy to its knees. And all the media just wants to talk about tariffs. That's not it, my friends. They're ignoring the quintessential key thing that is really off the charts that China is doing. We're going to go into that. We'll talk about the tariffs too. But first, we're going to talk about the latest development in this war between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Because we're going to let people come in the room here before we go into the China thing. So, what's happened here is kind of a background of the whole thing is that essentially the Taliban in Afghanistan want to extend their caliphate to Pakistan. Yeah, they think they can take Pakistan, which is mighty naive of them, actually. But there's a lot of trouble with this, my friends. And it started with basically border clashes because there's an Afghan terror network inside of Pakistan called the TTP. And they were doing ambushes and attacks back in early October on Pakistani troops. In fact, they did an ambush in early October in Pakistan's northwest Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, I can't pronounce that, province, which is near the Afghan border, which resulted in 11 Pakistani soldiers pushing daisies. And Pakistan, they said, hey, we'll hold the Taliban government responsible for this. This was the first phase. The second phase of this started with a Pakistani retaliation between the 9th and 10th of October on this. So they actually did airstrikes inside of Afghanistan on the 9th. Two powerful explosions were reported in the Afghan capital, Kabul, as well in the southeastern province of Palantir, however you say that, Pakata, I can't get that anyway. But yeah, these words are, I don't speak Farsi or whatever. But anyway, so they also started targeting the TTP, that's the name of the terrorist group there, leadership. And I've talked about this group before when we were talking about the Indian-Pakistan war, how they were putting pressure on Pakistan at that time. And if somebody gets in a major war with Pakistan, they got to worry about Baluchistan, which is basically declaring independence from Pakistan, which is a major part of the country too. So Pakistan's got a lot of pressure on them, but this isn't to be discounted. So, what happened then after they targeted their leadership, which Pakistan didn't really admit to, Afghanis condemned that, the Taliban, and so now they struck back starting on the 11th. And so the Afghan tribal forces launched armed reprisals against Pakistan military posts along the shared border, like hitting 7 different locations simultaneously. It was an exchange of heavy fire, very heavy fire. Intense fighting erupted, involving cross-border shelling and the use of heavy artillery on both sides. Afghan sources claim to have seized at least 2 of 3 Pakistani border posts in Helmand. Pakistan's counter response is that the security forces acknowledged the firing as a response with full force, but current status is that Pakistanis have claimed they basically offed 58 in this latest round. Afghans said they've offed 58 of the Pakistani soldiers, and they're declaring victory. But they're a long way from victory. So I think they're drunk on themselves. Somebody finally got notifications. Good. So I'll go into the chat room in depth a little bit after I get through the news here. We got a lot of stuff to cover and to unpack, and I'm going to try to get through it quickly for our morning coffee club members who basically get up and have breakfast. The Green Greg's news, they want the news up front, fast and furious, because they got to get on to church tomorrow. or work or whatever the case may be. But anyway, so these two armies are right now in a significant military escalation along the Durand line, with both sides reporting casualties and infrastructural damage. The tensions are high, and both governments are issuing warnings and want us to defend its territory. Now, what I got to tell you about this is that Pakistan has an alliance now, a military alliance with Saudi Arabia. So if too much heat gets on Pakistan, will Saudi Arabia come into this? Will this escalate into a wider war? Now, Pakistan, let's just kind of back and look at the geostrategic thing. Trump wanted to basically reopen Bagram Air Force Base. And at first he thought he would succeed in this because the Taliban was not happy with China over the way they treated the Uyghurs over in Xinjiang province, which is a ginormous province of what's China claims. Basically, they took it over like Tibet and so many other things, like they do with neighbors. But what happened? Pakistan will give Afghanistan something. Well, I don't think it'll go nuclear. And the reason for that is Pakistan don't have to go nuclear. They'll whip Afghan. Now, if you've seen the videos on X and other places of the Afghan military movement, they're moving in all that good, wonderful armaments and Humvees and vehicles that basically President Taterhead left behind. Over $1 trillion worth of military assets. Maybe that's why they feel bold enough to go after Pakistan. And Pakistan has been weakened by internal divisions, by internal corruption, and by the recent war with India. So maybe they think they can take them. But still, what Pakistan military is a military. What the Taliban have is a bunch of ragbag soldiers that are not a professional military. They don't have the jets and resources that Pakistan can bring to bear. So I don't really see the Taliban prevailing. But if they surprise us and actually do, they would love to, because they would really like to take over the Pakistani nukes. And that would be a real predicament if they did that. So, actually have a caliphate, which is somewhat on the extremist side, as the Taliban has been known to be, because they used to sponsor and house Al-Qaeda, which is believed to have, put attacks here on the United States. They certainly put the rhetoric out for it. However you think that all went down. Osama bin Laden, who we paid him and got him started, along with all this other stuff in Afghanistan, which put the Taliban in power. They believe in biting the hand that feeds them. They'll take the money and then they'll bite you. Yeah. Osama bin Laden was no friend of the West by any stretch of the imagination. And, but also he wound up in Pakistan, didn't he? So there's just a lot of blame to go around in these areas. And it's also been suggested that he was moved through another country on his way, through these circuitous places. So, my friends, here's the thing. Like I said, I was getting to, Trump wanted to put a base, reclaim that base, Bagram Air Force Base. He thought he could do it. The Afghans were talking to him about it at first, but China come in. Oh yeah. China really realized this would be a strategic threat to them. And that's what Trump wanted it. And so they gave sweetheart deals to the Taliban. So because for one, Afghanistan is rich in mineral resources, and China's trying to control all the mineral resources, which we're going to get back to that in a little bit with this new war stuff. But this is kind of a background to that. It all fits together. This is kind of an open into it, as in all this stuff in Venezuela. These aren't unconnected pieces going on, guys. This is all part of a bigger, gigantic chess game leading up to World War III. And let's hope that it don't go that far. But that's what it smells like, especially when I tell you what China's actually pulled. So, and this fits. This resource thing is part of it. So here's the funny thing. China had, made deals with Pakistan. like they were becoming a Pakistani ally. Pakistan used to be the U.S. ally when India was purely a Russian ally. But now Modi went over and kissed the ring of Xi Jinping back in their 80th 80th anniversary celebration of the winning of the war over Japan, which America actually ended that war, but they don't recognize that. Yeah. But anyway, and it wasn't even CCP forces that were mainly fighting the Japanese in China anyway. It's the Republic of China and Kai Cheng-chek, who later went into exile, took the government of China into exile on the island of Formosa, which we know as Taiwan. They never were a province under the CCP's control. So this reunification is a whole other story, but it's bogus. They're talking conquest. Anyway, all that aside, yeah, Xi Jinping is not going to love me, but that's fine. There's been rumors he had a stroke, but these channels putting those rumors out, they had him dead about 20 times already. So I'm not listening to any of them because Xi Jinping's blah, 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 blah. I've heard this so many times. Let's wait and see because he's supposed to be meeting with Trump at the end of this month. I don't know if that meeting will take place or not, though, just because of the trade tensions that are really going off the charts with what's happening here. So, anyway, Trump wanted Bagram, but China made a deal. And so China became a bigger ally to the Taliban than they were to Pakistan. Pakistan has one of the critical links to the Silk Road going to their port, which gets China's resources, maybe helps get them around that Malacca Strait choke point. So you'd think that would be more critical to China, but they see that Bagram Air Force Base has been a real threat if the U.S. went back in there. So to them, that was a little higher importance to them. And the mineral resources in Afghanistan, they made a sweetheart deal with the Afghans apparently to stay on their side. So they refused Trump, and now they're attacking Pakistan. Now, the thing is, the Pakistanis, they basically have, crapped on all their friends in every punch bowl and every party. And so nobody wants to play with them anymore. The United States has been bit by them. India don't want anything to do with them. China, who they thought was their new ally, don't really care so much because China also knows that Pakistanis are desperate. They're not going to give up the relationship for that new pathway, the new Silk Road that they got going down through Pakistan. So Pakistan is between a rock and a hard place, but they can handle the Afghans. At least we think they can. They should be able to. If they can't, shame on them because they get everything they need to be able to deal with the Afghans. Now, see, the Afghans are, the Taliban's are more pure Islamic. They are an Islamic state on the radical side of the equation there. And Pakistan, not so much so. Pakistan is an Islamic nation, but they're not, a caliphate or anything like that. So this is why Afghanistan wants to take over Pakistan. And for some deluded reason, they think they can pull it off. I don't think they can. They ran the United States out, but, look who was president, and he didn't listen to his advisors about, not pulling out yet and securing certain things before they made a move. But they put their tail between their legs and ran when the crowds stormed the bastion, the fences and the gates, because they waved a certain flag. They had a lot of colors running across it, which the locals took extreme offense to. I'm not judging that flag. I'm just telling you, when you're in Rome, do like the Romans. And that's one thing that the locals there would take extreme offense to. And they did. Extreme offense. So much so that they all just jumped off their couches and camels and whatever they had, tents, and ran at the bases there. And it was quite a crowd. So in any event, that's kind of a backdrop for where I'm going on these resources. Because what happened? China just made a new trade rule that anybody that sells any of the rare earth minerals that China supplies, even it's like 1/100th of a percent or something like that, just a very small, tiny fraction included in the product or the profit that it is prohibited to sell them to the United States. What we're talking about is the United States will not, under this rule, be able to buy any chips from Taiwan. And they're critical for our defense, for our economy. This is a huge slap to our economy and our ability to build, all these missiles that Trump just said, hey, we're going to quadruple production on. Not if you don't have the chips. And even a lot of our dumber things that fire just, artillery shells or tank shells now have all kind of electronics in the fire control mechanisms, so you can get an accurate trajectory on that big dumb round of ammunition. So it affects our entire military. But the only thing it don't affect is M16 or M4, M2, whatever the heck they're shooting these days. There's M16s back in my day, which was, the blood brother of an AR. But in any event, that's actually how it started out, was AR. So, but in any event, American rifle. Yeah, American. But, some people don't like them. They think black rifles are bad. But anyway, racist, racist rifle folks. But anyway, so the deal is this would cripple our economy, cripple our military. So Trump comes back and says, oh, you going to do this? Well, we're going to put that 100% tariff on you effective the first day of November. Now China's come back against that and claim, oh, well, we're going to do more stuff. Now, honestly, in a full-blown trade war, China's a net seller, we're a net buyer. They can't win. In a trade war or a tariff war, but in the first part, it could be harmful. Where we really screwed up extremely bad is when we gave China most favored nation trading status. Now, that's a status that's supposed to be given to somebody that is high on democratic, use that word, principles, high on the standards of how they treat people. And China was nowhere near that back in those days. Remember Tiananmen Square? Remember how they treat the Uyghurs? That was happening even back then. Basically, genocide on the Uyghurs. Organ harvesting, against political prisoners. Oh, we don't like your policies. You're a Christian. We need a heart. We need a lung. We need a kidney. Guess what? You're volunteering to give it. So we'll arrest you and take it. This has been documented, but we ignore these things still. Not as much as we used to, but for the most part, that's still ignored. How they treat the Tibetans. You don't remember the slogans and bumper stickers that used to go around, Free Tibet? Where are those at? Free Tibet. Heck yeah, Free Tibet. We should be seeing that today. But in any event, so what's happening is they are really putting the screws to the United States. But we screwed up by giving them this trading status. What it meant was they came in. Remember, they had that policy I talked about in last video. It was hide and bide. Hide your strength and bide your time. That was an official policy of the CCP. And their other official policy was to dump cheap crap on the entire world to the point that the world couldn't afford to compete against them, would start shutting down their factories, their mines, their refineries. Do you realize all these rare earth minerals? We didn't get them from China to start with. We started getting them from when they killed all the other industries out by dumping cheap crap on us. Now, see what you get for that, for dealing with a communist country like that? Yeah, authoritarian, I should say, instead of communist. They're really more in the FACI brand these days. If you really look and rack it and stack it and see what qualifies as that and don't qualify. But in any event, so we really screwed the pooch when maybe I shouldn't say that. We really messed up, guys, when we gave them that trading status. And when we just let them trade wide open and shut our industries down left and right. We shut down mines. We shut down refineries. We got those minerals. We and other Western allies. But guess what? Oh, there's some coming out of Africa, a few places, but China's went in and cornered all those markets. They're trying to get Afghanistan. They want to get every single source of this stuff they can. Siberia is probably really rich in that stuff too. But yeah, we could have been making it on, but we can't just jump up and start supplying that to our own indigenous chip companies tomorrow morning, because you got to build the mines, you got to build refineries, you got to hire people, you got to retrain them. There's learning curves involved. Uh, there's going to be some engineering to set all this stuff up, and then there's these new green environmental policies that say, "Oh, you can't mine any of these places." And they got in politically with some of the places where the land's controlled by indigenous tribes that used to agree to these things because they got some money from it. Now they're oh, we don't want you mining here, for whatever purpose. But the CCP has long reach inside the United States with lots of groups here. I've talked about that before, and they play it, especially to anybody on the left side of the political spectrum. Why else did Governor Newsom give the red carpet to Xi Jinping? And when he drove through, I forget what city he went to. Was it San Francisco when he came over last time and visited California? They had red flags, CCP flags up and down the streets everywhere. He felt like he was at home. Yeah, and he was for all intents and purposes. So I'm going to show you some articles to back up what I'm talking about and bring up a few more talking points on this. But this, that's practically that's practically an act of war in and of itself. Not to mention, what have I been telling you guys? I've been telling you guys that China's been at war with us all along. We've just been too stupid to know it or to see it. I've been warning about this. I've been saying this. Now it's starting to become evident. Look at all those SIM farms. You can take down all of our cell phones and take down our internet, denial of service all across the country. And they got the computers hacked on the inside, the cell phones on the outside. They've got means to take out our power. Oh yeah, what I said about providing stuff? They're selling us those transformers. Oh yeah, and they also got black boxes in them. We can shut them down. The solar panels they're selling us. They only manufacture solar panels practically, and they've got stuff on them. I mean, they hacking everything we got here, and they got sleeper cell agents in our country. Guys, we have a war with them. It's going to be right here at home. That's why you got to be ready now more than ever. You've got to be ready. You've got to be prepared for what it's going to be right here on the ground. And all this Antifa and all these other groups out there protesting, guess what? We now know they're getting money through China too. Interesting. All these organizations and aren't organizations. Yeah, they are organizations. I'll need to do a video on, probably on Soilhead News. I think I'll diagram this out some for you over there. I'm going to go into all that tonight, maybe tomorrow. I don't know if I'll live stream or not. But guys, this is, I already got a lot of that stuff dialed up and ready to go. This is very serious what we're facing. This is the biggest challenge America has ever faced. We got biolabs here. They'd love to have this property. This is the most choice real estate on the planet. The only way they could take it is to take us out. How could they do that? EMP attack, bio attack, and then come in and mop up what's left. This is not funny. This is not fun and games by any stretch of the imagination. And people don't want to believe it, but that's because you got your head in the sand. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're saying. Look at Sun Tzu tactics. Look at the fact that we had the bio lab in Reedley, California. We think there's a lot more of them. We were lucky to find that one. We only found it because somebody knows some stuff oozing out of a pipe outside, and it wasn't supposed to be anything like that in there. They poured it and then went in and was like, oh my gosh, we had no clue. What else is there here? FBI thinks there's at least 20 of them. We don't know. That might have been it. That might be 100, 120. We don't know. But all those military age young men that came over from mainland panda country, cross the wide open borders, just walk right in. What about them? What about, the reports that they were going on all their bridges and infrastructure and taking photographs and taking notes, going through our cities? Yeah. Spy balloon, they allowed to fly over the entire country. The capacity to do an EMP attack from the same kind of balloon, just let it go up to its actual design height of altitude. This one was flying at a lower altitude. That's why we were able to take it out with the F-22. It was flying at a lower altitude. But those balloons were designed for higher altitudes or other super pressure balloons. But guys, we got to wake up. We got to start bending the ears of our politicians, politics, many ticks, many bloodsuckers. I don't care what party they're in, they're all bloodsuckers. Anyway, so this is something we got to wake up to. We got to wake them up, but we got to prepare ourselves because there ain't no cavalry coming to save you. What you're going to have is all you're going to have. You got to get ready for what's coming. That's what I'm telling you. All right, all these things aside, I'm going to share some news articles talking about these things. We're going to talk about that plant that exploded. We're going to I'm going to show you some pictures I took from out here today. And we're going to do the egg guess. But that'll be the pictures and egg guess will be after the official news content for our morning coffee drinkers. So I just want to open up basically and give you the big picture. Now we're going to go into some of these new articles, and it may prompt me to say a few other things. But so it's not just a confirmation or a repeat of everything we've said here. But I'm trying to give you the straight skinny up front. So let's do a share here, especially for those that are in a real big hurry in the mornings. Yeah. I got this. Where have I got? There it is. That's where I want it. Here we go. Let's see. Share. This thing's acting different. All right. I got my main laptop back in the shop. Let's see how this works today. Times of India, border tensions high, heavy clashes. Oh, American boots on the ground in Ukraine. I saw some other articles. Yikes. That's some stuff I haven't seen yet. Anyway. Let's see. I did have this dialed up. Clashes break out between Pak Army and Taliban along borders. There's talking about retaliation airstrikes by Pak forces, Taliban border forces in the east engaged in heavy clashes. Like I said, it started out with ambushes from the Pakistani network inside of the TTP inside of Pakistan, and then retaliation by Pakistan against that. Now the Afghans are retaliating, and that's just ratcheting it up. Just like, that's how conflicts start. Panics, according to this article, India today. So India's no fan of Pakistan, by the way. So strikes in Afghanistan as the Palestine minister makes maiden trip to India. Oh yeah, so the Taliban guys are in India. So this is some of what's been hit over there. Yeah, we're going to talk earthquakes too before this is over. Intense clash. There's some of your fire going on. Pakistan security officials acknowledge clashes at several border locations. Well, there's about 7 of them. Yeah, this TTP is Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. I don't know. That's not something I can remember or even properly pronounce, probably. That's why I just refer to them as TTP, but there you go. Anyway, here they're accused of offing hundreds of Pakistani soldiers since 2021. Yeah, there's been continuous conflict in that border region. It's been going on for some time. So Pakistan just finally says, hey, we're sick of it, we're tired of it, and they took a strike on the Taliban and the Kabul, as I mentioned. And now here's the Afghani says, hey, they got 58 Pakistanis in an overnight border operation. Guys, these people are dirt poor. Look at this. It's a shame they're going through all this kind of stuff. These people are just dirt poor. but that's how they've lived for a long time. Anyway, the movement of Taliban, TTP in Pakistan, so religion was 11 Pakistani soldiers. So I've already told you everything that's in that. So anyway, so let's get to the China news. TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, could be barred from selling chips to the U.S. under China's new rare earth export. You can say, well, Greg, how can they bar them? Because China don't rule Taiwan much as they'd like to. Well, all they got to do is tell them this: okay, you violate this rule, you get zero from us, and your whole chip business will shut down. Of course, this probably shuts down 50% of the business to start with. So this will be a big hit on Taiwan, on the TSMC, on the Taiwanese economy, which China's happy with that too. So they get it to basically off two birds with one stone in this kind of maneuver. So it's win-win for China, at least they think it is, but it may be a suicide move on their part because there is another ace Trump can play other than tariffs. Maybe a couple of aces he could play. Go into that in a minute. So as we know, uh, Trump warned them, hey, you do this to us, well, we're going to put a 100% tariff on you. 100% tariff in the month. And he's just announced it. Yep, we're going to do that. I don't know about that guy's glasses. Anyway, but China warns U.S. of countermeasures. Oh, if you don't walk his 100% tariff back, we're going to do some more stuff to you. Like I said, hey, in the end, they don't win a trade war. They don't. But, that's just, what they're saying. Resorting to threats of high tariffs is not the right way to engage with China. What is? Bend over and take it? China, kiss my grits. Anyway, if the U.S. persists in acting, get this, if the U.S. persists in acting unilaterally, we're not acting unilaterally, you jackhole. We're responding to you crushing our military and our economy by taking away our chips, by telling TSMC that basically they can't sell to us. So all this crap coming out of China is just that. And the Western media will run with that and blame the whole thing on Trump for coming up with tariffs. That's what's going to happen. And I got to do some reporting on the media. I'll probably do that on Swivelhead News. Anyway, our position on a tariff war is consistent. We don't want one. Yeah, because they can't win it. But we're not afraid of one. Yeah, they are. This is them puffing up and acting tough. But our stock market has, dropped, over 3% on the threat of all this stuff. Uh-oh. There we are again. I've got the point I can't advance here. So I'm going to have to stop the share and go back in. I know how this works. Stupid thing. Had this problem before. Hit the share again. Hello. And let's see if we can make it advance now. That's what's happened in the past. If I do that, I can usually rock through. There we go. Interesting. Little quirks in the system, little gremlins I'm facing. Probably the CCP got me hacked, guys. Anyway, she is now making a new, stronger alliance with North Korea. North Korea and Russia are tied at the hips, as you know. And North Korean troops are in Ukraine. And, military technology from Russia is going to North Korea. Anyway, she tells North Korean Kim Jong-un, that is, that China is ready to strengthen strategic cooperation on international issues. Well, what's he telling him this is what they're announcing. What's he telling them, behind closed doors? I think they got them ready to move when they go on Taiwan. I think that's what it's really all about. So North Korea and China are great neighbors, friends, and comrades with each other. And the traditional friendship between the two countries is solidifying as time passes. Yeah, let some refugee from North Korea slip into China and see what happens to them. They get in big trouble. It's nothing like our open border with Mexico, but oh, they're good friends. Well, no other country lets people in like the United States. Well, European countries. Just Western countries. Lets everybody and lottie dottie and everybody walk in unvetted. Hey, I got no issue with immigration. We need immigrants, but they have to be vetted. You can't just allow anybody to cross the border like all those Chinese military young men I was talking about, or members of gangs, criminals. You don't these guys can people with tuberculosis or God knows what. You need to screen people. Some people think not, but now here's another form of economic warfare. China's pulling on us, trying to crush our dollar. They are actually, well, I lost a link in here. They are actually going to uh, Kenya, and they've offered them better terms than the loans of the U.S. dollar they were working in. So Kenya is about to start doing this stuff in yuan, but more economic support to the yuan and bringing the U.S. dollar down from the world reserve currency. That is what they're trying to do. And I thought I had another link open here, but I don't. Oh, yeah, by the way, guys, silver is over $4,000. Excuse me. Gold is over $4,000 per troy ounce, and silver is up to 50. It just keeps going up as long as this kind of stuff's going on. It probably will. Now, I'm not an economic forecaster. I'm not an economic advisor, a financial advisor. However, ever since I've been talking about this, the direction of the price of gold and silver has been going one direction, up. So I highly encourage you to check out defythegrid.com where they got a deal that says if you can find a better deal in Russia, we'll meet it or beat it. And you can use discount code GreenGregs to get 1% off. And that's really good. Some people don't understand this because that's how they make their deal, that they can make the best deal to you, is they operate on a 3 to 4% margin. Nobody else does that. That's how they make you the best deals they can. So they say if you can find a better deal to someone else, they'll meet or beat. Use discount code GreenGregs to defythegrid.com, and you can get those gold backs, which you can put in your wallet. They're made of they're denominated in thousandths of a troy ounce of gold, and they're artwork. So they're really, it's really a cool technology. Anyway, let's go on. Top Putin ally claims that humanity would applaud if UK, the United Kingdom, were being destroyed in a chilling nuclear threat. So I don't just cover U.S. news. We're talking about the Taliban. We've talked about India. We've talked about China. I've talked about the wars between India and China and Pakistan and India for years. And I still do. Somebody says, well, you just cover American news. No, I don't. It's primarily maybe American centric. That's because most of my audience is from here. But I do try to cover other things. I talk about Europe because we got a lot of European followers here. We talk about the Philippines sometimes, Korea's. Anyway, got good friends in Korea, the Philippines. So an ally of Vladimir Putin has claimed that, yeah, this was, anyway, this is our old buddy Vladimir Solovoy. He was a big medium guy in Russia. He don't talk. I think he's actually got a government job now, but you don't say nothing like this in Russia without criminal approval. So he and some others have been making threats against the United Kingdom. They've even enlisted a target list, and they talk about maybe using the Tsar bomb on the United Kingdom, which would just totally overwash the entire United Kingdom with a giant tidal wave and wipe everybody out. So I don't know, maybe the nuke cities first, and then I don't know. United Kingdom, for some reason, Russia's got a special angst against the United Kingdom. This goes way back to some other stuff. But boy, so the United States is talking about sending Tomahawk missiles over. In response, they talk about attacking UK. Interesting. That's I think the Tomahawk missiles is kind of at the beginning of this, but see, Solovoy's talking about using that Rinsk missile system against UK. This is, theater ballistic missiles, not they're strategic ballistic missiles, but Britain is really close to Kaliningrad. They could pull that off. All right. Now, why is it? Now, I'm not saying they're going to do that. It might just be a lot of huffing and puffing. But why is it that the Belarusian army has suddenly went on top highest alert? The highest level of DEFCON type readiness. Why? What does Lukashenko know? He's put Belarus on top military alert. We don't know what. We don't know why. We just know what he's done. Our spy plane flying all around Russia and Kaliningrad, all the posturing, the tankers that went to Europe. Something cooking? What do we not know? But now this is, take it for who it's coming from. This is coming from the new voice of Ukraine. And Ukrainians are always out saying, look, Russia's about to attack you. You better do something with Russia now. You better help us, because after we get done with us, they're going to whip you or attack you. Well, I don't know, but that's a mighty bold claim. They might want to take us, the Baltic nations, maybe Moldova, but all of Europe, of course, the Baltic nations are members of NATO. Anyway, Russia is rebuilding tank fleet to strike NATO after Ukraine war. That's what they're saying. I won't say it's not the case, but I'm considering the source. I think that the source is a bit prejudiced in what they're putting out. So just bear that in mind. When you see news like this, you got to look back and see who's saying it. So I am not quite buying it because attacking NATO is a whole nother nut to crack, even though Ukraine may be tougher because it's got more troops actually than Europe, rest of Europe. And they're battle hardened right now, but still, as you get take more and more territory, you got to subdue more and more people. And Russia is be stretched too thin, in my humble opinion, to do that. I mean, they might do a blitzkrieg and wipe some stuff out, but really holding the ground, and why would you do it if you can't hold the ground? I don't know. I just have a hard time picking up what the Ukrainians are putting down in this regard. But in any event, I don't think the United States needs to be any part of this stuff. Fresh Russian incursions raise temperature for NATO in the Baltic. This is ABC News. They want to go to war with Russia. But these fresh incursions are not to be found in this article. That's the funny thing, because they're going back and talking about what happened on the 19th of September. I kid you not. September 19th, the 3 MiGs. You go through this article, there's nothing else. But they're talking about how NATO is getting prepared to deal with this, and should they cross certain points, how NATO may shut down the Baltic Sea, blah, 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 blah. Oh, there was something I missed in terms of, we'll have to talk this again. I did miss one of the countermeasures that Trump could do. Maybe the article got closed. Sometimes I'm setting these things up, articles get closed. Kind of knocked me out of a talking point. Let's talk that now before we get into the blast survivors. So what can Trump do besides tariffs? The tariffs can be very effective. Well, there's talk, some are suggesting that basically we go to, who's the main customers of China? United States and Europe. Oh, yeah, they're talking like they'll sell to their own people and the global South. The global South ain't buying that stuff. They don't have the economy to buy what the United States and Europe's buying. And the people in China don't either. They're not buying it. So they have to export. And their primary export markets are the United States, Western nations. Let's just put it that way. Western nations are their primary exports. So we'll include Australia in that. So New Zealand, Western style countries. Even though Australia and New Zealand aren't located in the West, they're still Western. Western style nations are their market. And if the United States works with Europe, and Europe's got to recognize they're next on this chopping block too. Because China is supporting Ukraine, that's supporting Russia. So underhandedly. So Europe needs to wake up. And China, what they've done to our markets, they did to people in Europe too. They destroyed jobs, they're wrecking economies. So the Europeans are on the verge of losing their steel industry, and they know it. So some of the Europeans are actually suggesting what I'm talking about. And it's that we set up a new trade deal where we only trade amongst Western partners. We don't even buy from anybody else, just Western partners or people that are willing to work with us and accept our terms of trade. Now, the article I read of that was my suggestions, wanting to get rid of all the tariffs. I don't think you have to do that. But, you still may have to have favorable trading terms with each country in the Western world. And so basically, it would be just cutting China off. That would bring them to their knees. That would be something they cannot win against. And so that would be bigger than any tariff we throw on them. And that's where we ought to be going. Shy of that, the only other thing we can do is blockade them, and blockading is an act of war. But it may be coming to something like this because China's already at war with us, and it's going to get worse. Why else? Why would China cut this stuff off? It's to cut out our defenses. Why do they want to cut our defenses? It's because they've got military ambitions. Plain and simple. Military ambitions. There was another article I seemed to have lost. I thought I had a bunch more stuff racked up. I must have. Sometimes when I'm putting these things up, they accidentally click something off and kill it. There's also an article showing how the Chinese are building a whole bunch of this amphibious landing craft in the Yangtze River, at the mouth of the Yangtze River, a bunch of them, and how these are preparing them to be able to invade, military invasion of Taiwan. So this is something to think about. This is something to consider right now. So now we're going to kind of change topics. We'll deal with that. The word is, though, that China's been at war with us. We're too darn dumb as a country and culture to understand it. Now, some of us get it, but some of no, we got people here that would gladly accept them. They would make Xi Jinping emperor of America if they could. But anyway, so yeah, if y'all may have heard of this factory blast. How come I'm getting this out of a UK newspaper, The Guardian? Well, the website's US, but in Tennessee, this huge factory explosion at a munitions plant. That got everybody was there. They thought 19 people at first. Well, it turned out to be 18. And let me just show you a picture of the plant before and after. There it is on the lower left-hand corner before the explosion. And here it is after the explosion. There ain't nothing left. This is worse than what the Romans did to the Jewish temple. There is nothing left. That place blew slap up, and it flung debris for miles and miles and miles. I'm hearing stuff like 10, 15 miles. I don't know. The debris was flung for a long distance. We're talking about even unexploded ordnance being flung. Yo, hey, SpaceX with your Starship launching off the coast of Texas. Get that darn thing out in the ocean and launch it. It's more explosive than this. In the safety world, you call this stuff quantity distance. That's the number for how far things could be flung in an explosion. It's called quantity distance. It's supposed to be assessed, and you shouldn't have anything of risk within that quantity business. Now, something like this happened in Huntsville, Alabama. There was a lab called WWIII Labs, like Wile E. Coyote, right? They did a lot of testing. That was their forte, to do test systems. And one of the things they tested was munitions. Well, they had a building that wasn't too many miles, it was not too far from apartment complexes and other things. And they were testing, I believe it was a rocket motor or some munition in there. One of my buddies, I think Wade Dorland, he's probably passed away now. I think he was working for Wiley at that time. He used to. I had a lot of friends that had worked for him in the past. Building blew up just like that one. It was bye-bye. It was gone. And windows were shattered in apartment complexes and all kind of stuff. Yeah, there was a crater where that building was. It left a crater. You don't see a crater down here in this lower left-hand drawing. But this is what a lot of your explosives can do. Now, what to handle things like this, what if you're working in this place, you got to realize, and even the days old powder mills that made black powder were very prone to go boom. So you got to have very stringent safety controls and a very stringent safety culture. And you got to know that everybody's 100% on board with that. That's stuff that people like to ignore. They're like, we don't need to do that. I know I can get this done. Maybe they got in a hurry because they got bigger orders to make munitions. They made rounds for the M1 tank there, among other things. So maybe they just weren't paying good attention. They got a little lazy, a little lackadaisical. Maybe somebody wasn't too smart. He didn't understand what that safety procedure was, or just didn't believe in it because the world's flat, so this can't happen. Well, that place is flat now. Right there, that's a flat property. Didn't used to be, but it is now. So, yeah, I feel for all the families that went through loss there. This is a tragic thing that happened, but this is why you got to pay special attention to safety culture. Now, it could be, since we're on this rise in military tensions around the world, the United States is sending munitions, and we're on the verge of fighting everybody on the planet, almost. Maybe it was sabotage. You can't rule it out. But really good safety protocol could catch a lot of that, but maybe not everything. Maybe it was an inside job for somebody that was a sympathizer with Xi Jinping. We got a lot of that in this country. All those guys that put all those CCP flags on the streets in California, Gavin Newsom. We got some people here that like them better than they like us. Because they believe in communism. It's going to save them all, they believe. Well, ask the people that fled Venezuela what they think about that. Go ask the people in Eastern Europe that lived under the Soviet Union what they think of that. Go ask the people in Hong Kong who got their treaty short shrifted and got the Chinese jackboot on their necks, what they think about it. Just go ask people in the street in China if they're willing to talk to you. Yeah, a lot of people. Ask Taiwan why they're not just happy with Lee to go join the CCP. Well, they just lay everything down and go join them because it's great and wonderful. That's what, a lot of American college students think. It's what they got taught in school here. It's what the media was behind for a long time. So we got to wake up. We got to start talking to our friends and neighbors about things that make sense. You can't tell them all right up front and hit them over the head with it because their shields will just go up. Their eyes will glaze over. You got to just start slowly walking into it. Well, what about this? What about that? What do you think about this? And kind of slowly pull at them. Make them think one little piece at a time. That's the only way you're going to win them over. But that needs to be done. We got a lot of people that's got a lot of mush in their heads. It's not gray matter neurons. It's like melon mush. And they're melon heads. Anyway, next topic. White House says that spankings begin. That the layoffs begin. They're laying people off, firing people left and right. Now, it started. For a lot of us that's been wanting to see the government cut down in size, that's interesting. Now, there are some issues with not having TSA, maybe people in the control towers, the airports. So there's some airport traffic issues, which does affect our economy negatively. There are some things that are hitting us negative economically. Maybe some of that needs to be re-looked at. But for the most part, we got $37 trillion in debt. We can't keep going the way we're going, or it'll all shut down. We're good, or something. Anyway, but he's going to pay the soldiers. That's good news. And look, he shut down entire agencies. Yeah, including this Community Financial Institutions Fund. Who did they fund? Yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole. So uh we need yeah, talk about brainwash. That's really what happens if you watch the news. Uh and that's something I'm going to go on my green grades, not green grades. So I'm probably going to cover it on Schoolhead News tomorrow sometime. Is you get all these people in the media, they got talking points. How many times have you watched a video where they'll show you two people saying the exact same words, three people, four people, 20 people, 200, 2,000, and all these news outlets from all these different companies, and be ABC, CBS, NBC, it don't matter. They come out and tell you the exact same stuff, blah, 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 verbatim practically, especially these lefty talking points. But, the people out there have been watching this for years. And once you repeat something enough times, you believe it. Think about, and we find that in the Bible, the story of Joseph. The brothers sold Joseph to the traders from Egypt. And they went back, they killed an animal and put the blood on Joseph's multicolored robe and brought it home to dad. And he was totally distraught. Abraham was totally distraught because he thought his son was gone. And when these brothers that created that lie, they told it so many times, went to Egypt and saw Joseph alive, they couldn't believe it. They thought he would. They began to believe what they were saying, even though they came up with it. They said it so many times, they believed it. And that happens. So what do you think about the people that's been told stuff over and over and over? Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. I had a buddy on a school bus one time sitting next to me. I said, I can make you itch. He says, no, you can't. I said, oh, yeah, I can make you itch. He said, you cannot. I just sat there and I said, you're itching, you're itching, you're itching, you're itching. I kept saying, and soon he was scratching and said, shut up, shut up. I had him scratching all over. I just kept on, you're itching, you're itching, you're itching. And it worked. It's hypnotic suggestion. Uh, it was funny. I got a real laugh at him. I did. I made him itch. It drove him nuts. He swore I couldn't do it. This is what the news media does. It is hypnotic. It's called programming. That's what you get on TV programs is programming. The stuff on, sitcoms is programming. All the dads are stupid and dumb everywhere. Ha ha, look at dumb daddy. You got, they're trying to squash the mill roll. They try to destroy families. Look, so we're into there. Families are destroyed. It wasn't that way for all the programming. And then you look at just I don't know, across our whole country. You look at all the news, all the so-called comedians on late night TV. They all want to make fun of the political right. Jimmy Kimmel. We'll talk about him in the future here, not too far from now. All these guys talking hi, Trump, hi, Orange Man bad, hi, 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 hi. Yeah, they're stupid. They're pawns, and they're out there to program. They're programming. This is going on around the world, by the way. It's not just here in the United States. So wherever you are, pay attention to the programming. Fires of federal workers began as the White House seeks to pressure Democrats and government shutdown. So what they're trying to, it's all over the Affordable Care Act stuff, which, by the way, did have provisions for funding the illegal immigrants, your tax money for health care, all provided that, someone, oh, that wasn't true. Well, yeah, it was. It was provided that they apply for, what do you call it? Oh shit, the word, I know what it is, but it's just slipping my mind right now. It's all where they apply for, oh shit, what is it where you're running away from a country because you've been oppressed or you feel like your life's threatened? Somebody help me out here in the chat room. Uh, asylum seekers. Well, they were coaching everybody to come across the border how to apply to be asylum seeker. Oh, just file for this and we can give you a lot of money. Yeah. And so, they were actually having a pre-registered, they had an app on the phone they gave them to apply to be asylum seekers and come over, please. They wanted everybody they can get in the country. And how are we supposed to pay for all that? Hmm. Anyway, colleges, movies, TV, music. Yeah. Well, Cloward and Piven and others started just working these guys into colleges. This was intended. This was by design. The colleges, the media, and then the media got all bought out and controlled by just a few media corporations. All the products you buy in the stores, you might see 400 different brands, but it's like less than a dozen, maybe five or six companies that make all of it and control it all. Uh, and then they're owned typically by, you know, BlackRock with a lot of investment in them. Yeah. And then the head of BlackRock now, Larry Fink. Isn't he taking over the House of Klaus? Anyway, what all this stuff I've been talking about, robots, how China would make a robot army. Well, now they got a robot that can handle dust, rust, rain, and heat. Oh, yeah. Where you can go out in the forest and do Zen stuff. Yeah, Chinese don't believe in Zen. Not the CCP. But look at this guy. Here he is in a lotus position in the forest. So, yeah, robots can't meditate. They got no soul. They don't even, they can't even, AI can't even think. Did you know that? These large language models that you're talking to don't know what they're telling you. Oh yeah, they record and save stuff so they re-reference it and make it look like they know what they're telling you. You know how a large language model works? Every word is a token. Words and groups of words is a token in their memory. And they're trained that certain tokens are associated with certain other words. Like the word red might be associated with color. Or, we got words sometimes that have the same meaning, two different words. So it may have different associations. So then it compares what words are adjacent to figure out what's a proper association. And then look at the sentence. And they use this stuff to actually predict the next word you'll say, just like that little app on your phone. If you're texting with your thumbs, it'll suggest the next word. Not always right. Quite often not right. But that's the core. That's how large language models started as a little word predictor for your telephone. And then they grew a lot from there. But, so they're actually, that is a very difficult process. They got to sort all kind of associations and process that, and then take your overall question, whatever you ask, and then try to process all that, then search the entire internet to come up with an answer, and then write something. But then it'll congratulate you and stroke your ego and make you think you're the greatest person in the world and you're really brilliant for asking what you ask, and it don't even know what it told you. It's just programming, more programming, my friends. And people are buying into it. People are making personal relationships with these things. People are ending their lives over advice on these stupid programs. That's what large language models are. It's artificial stupidity. There's no real intelligence to it. And that our brains, when we form a sentence, it's more direct. When we perceive reality, it's direct. These got to do enormous amount of processing. It takes a lot of power. That's why you got to have these big data centers, and they got to have a lot of water to cool them, and suck in a lot of power to run all this stuff. I mean, the result, what it come out with, looks really sophisticated. Looks really nice. But just you got to understand, there's no intelligence behind it. How in the world is this stuff going to take over the world? But it can do interesting tasks. It's a useful tool, but you got to realize there's limitations. It hallucinates. So the last thing we need is a psychotic, hallucinating AI running a AI robot soldier running through the streets with a bang bang. Anyway, all right, enough of all that. We're going to talk about earthquakes. We're almost done with the news part here. Wow, we got a bunch of them in the Philippines. The Philippines has been suffering, my friends. There's a 6.0 as an aftershock. They've been suffering down here. And got one up here. Northern Island, 4.9. Philippines got thousands of islands. Kamchatka area, that one was 5.8. This is the main area. They're dying down. Alaska's got a bunch of them. Bunch up in Alaska. The Wandafuka plate, she be rocking. Okay, I saw some earlier. They're gone. Texas. What went on in Texas? Nevada has been having little earthquakes. This in Texas, this is 4.3 in Westbrook. That's fairly significant. Down here in Mexico, 4.8. Anyway, let's see, Papua New Guinea. No, that's Indonesia. New Guinea's on this side of the island. 5.0. And there was one down at the Drake Passage. Oh, I can get down here. I can get this thing to scroll right here. I don't think that's the latest one, 5.1. There was a bigger one down there that was capable of creating a tsunami. Yes, I believe it was yesterday. But look over South Sandwich Islands, got one over there too. So that's a little concerning. We don't normally see them right here. Over here, yeah. There's a bunch of them going off over here in Africa. Ethiopia. We had a 5.6 is a larger one. Whoa, up here on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, we got one. Most of the ridge is quiet right now. Greenland Sea, 4.8. In Pakistan, looks like right up on the border of Afghanistan, where the war zone's going on. Interesting. Anyway, let's talk space weather. So the coronal hole from the sun is causing some aurora. It can cause electromagnetic things on Earth. We've had a lot of earthquakes lately. Some people believe the sun, by compressing our magnetosphere, induces current in the piezoelectric crystals and the rocks in our soil. And, we do know that you get earthquake lights that come out of these rocks just prior to an earthquake because they get tensed, they release the electrons, and it goes into the sky. Well, when you take a piezoelectric crystal, and you put current into it, then you get a movement out. When you put a movement in, you get current out. It works both ways. So if you're inducing a current into the piezoelectric crystals, you might induce movement, which could induce volcanoes and earthquakes and things like that. So you can see there's some kind of a theoretical basis. How well that's been correlated experimentally is, maybe a good question. So we had Jesse Tolbert in the house. I'm sure he might tell you a little bit about that. He's a big fan of the electric universe, and that's one thing they delve into quite a bit. There's not a lot of really big sunspots. They're tiny right now, but we got that big coronal hole right in the middle. So maybe that's why. That don't mean the sunspots ain't going to be coming back. I'm throwing some flares out. Yeah, but right now the aurora is kind of weak at the moment, but that may not last. So in the world of asteroids, there's nothing coming between the Earth and the Moon that we see here soon, before the 8th of December, that we see and know of. Always the case is, oh, we didn't see that one. The smaller ones slip by us. We discover them when they're really close or just slip by us. That's how you get a lot of these reds back in here. All of those were all over 1 lunar distance away. That 3.5 times, now the 3.3. So, you just never know when. We're in a cosmic shooting gallery, my friend. So I'm going to stop the share. Hello. All righty. Oh, I'm going to share something else here. And I'll go to the chat room. I'm going to share something else with y'all. Make sure I got it opened. Ding, 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 ding. So I can find it. Come on up. What? There it is. All right. I'm going to do one more show. I'm going to show you some pictures. I've got my phone, at least the picture part. I hadn't linked a calling app up to it and everything else, but I got the pictures to my phone linked now to my computer, so I only actually have to physically connect them and download a bunch of stuff. So I'll show you some pictures I took today right here in Arizona. It ain't too arid right now. It's wet. Because of Hurricane Priscilla. So let's show you guys this stuff. Share. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. All right, here we are. I'll blow this up a little bit. I don't know if that helps show. This is on my property. I got 3 levels to my property. I got a level where there's some pretty good hills. And I got the level I live on, which is up here over this rock ledge, a little bit up. So there's a rock ledge there. Then I got this big lower land area. And I'm thinking this will make great pasture land or maybe a place to grow hay. Maybe better for gardens than where I'm growing at now. I just got to get the resources down there. And then if you're standing this way, the wash should be behind us. And I got a big rock ledge here. I've had some people want to talk about the wash. They're all worried about me getting washed out with my house. No, that ain't happening. There's many houses around there a lot lower level than mine are. And they've been there for a long time. So I think the floodplain kind of extends over this ground, but not over these rocks here. And this is flat because at some point in time it has been flooded. Up here is real hilly with sand piled and sand dunes, basically. So it's not been flooded. So it takes a crazy amount of water to get up over this rock ledge. And I just don't see that in Arizona. Arizona. There's another picture. You can see that rock ledge. There's another. I don't know. I think I had 3 pictures in there. And here's the wash. Now, I'm standing, I think, about 20 foot above that water level. It makes like a canyon at this point. Now, there's a place on the other side of the property where it's not quite as deep as here. But here it's like a canyon. Well, dirt walls, not a rock canyon, just a dirt wall canyon. About as high wall as you can probably get with just sheer dirt. And you can see the water is really muddy because it's been moving fast and taking a lot of silt with it. So now there's some trees. My property line is actually right about just this side of that tree. And maybe if Jesse Mills is in the house, he can tell us what that is, because all the locals told me it's a cottonwood. And he says, it's not a cottonwood. You know, that's not an Alabama tree. I know that. I still got to learn some of my vegetation out here. But you can see the wash going this way. My side of the wash is a little higher than that side, which is interesting. That's probably why it formed right here. The wash went through, and this was a hill that was a little lower, so it probably banked here and carved out this little canyon. Those trees grow where there's water, so I would imagine if I could dig in right here, I would find water not too far under the surface. That's just a pretty picture there of the sun setting through those trees, shining up on the clouds. If you haven't noticed, flat earthers, when the sun drops below the horizon, it lights up the bottoms of clouds. It's because it's below the horizon. It's not because it traveled in a circle around to some other place. There is no way in a flat earth scenario, because the sun would be going off somewhere else, it's ever going to shine underneath a cloud. Not happening. The world is not flat. And this is proof. Might be a cylinder. It's definitely not flat. At least by this proof, it's not a cylinder either. But I know I lived in Alaska. I could see the sun on the other side of the world across the top of the North Pole at night. So the world is a sphere. Let me be clear. Or an oblate spheroid. Okay, it's fat in the middle, like a lot of us. She's old, you know. We all get a little fat in the middle eventually. Just a little bit. Not all of us, but a lot of us. Anyway, guys, so there we go. Centrifugal force is the reason for that. And the centrifugal force makes the equator bulge quite a bit. So if we ever had this thing where some people talk about how all the continents are going to slide over, and how it does it every 12,000 years, the whole planet, all the crantons that the continents are made out of will have ginormous fissures running east-west everywhere. It'll be shattered like crazy. But all the fissures run the other way, because that's never happened. That's why. Somebody's out there now. I see them getting in news articles like they've been claiming that stuff. Never happened. Ever. There's geologic proof to it. I can talk about stalactites and stalagmites and caves, how you went down those today, all kind of stuff. There's all kinds of proofs. I'm not going to go into tonight. But anyway, there's another look down in the, you can kind of see the side of this big dirt wall here. I'm standing kind of on the edge. Isn't that amazing, guys? Sunsets. I love sunsets. I take a lot of sunset pictures. And you can see we're starting to get a little autumn colors in the leaves down here. A little trash down there. This picture didn't come out so good for some reason. There we go. How's that for a sunset picture? So I share beauty with you guys. Who else shares beauty with you in prepping channels? Whoops. Go back one. Yeah, we'll do the egg guess here in a little bit. And rainbows. How about that? That juniper tree, I have been told by people that work with the forest, climb fire towers and the national forest, the Secret National Forest, where it's got very thick blanket of juniper trees, telling me that juniper trees don't get as big as this one. Oh, I know they do because I got one. That thing is a giant. This is on the upper part of my property. I'm on one hill, and that's another. That's a hill behind my house. Just thought that was a pretty scene. All right, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna stop this share because I think the next pictures are of nugs, and this platform don't want me showing pictures of nugs. So anyway, there's that. Alrighty, guys, I did harvest some eggs today, and we're going to go through the chat room. Before we do, we'll do the egg guess now. So, how many eggs did I harvest today? That's the question. I didn't get any yesterday. How many did I get today? So I'm watching the chat room to see what you guys think. How many eggs did I get? Oh, there's some other pictures I could show you guys. How far can I go and not show nuts? Yeah, I'll show you my ponds. Wash. That's it. We can do that. All right. So yes, keep going. Yes, eggs. Keep going. Jesse Talbert, you got it. It's 3. Got 3 eggs today. So 3 eggs today. I had 0 yesterday. The day before, I think they laid 2, and the day before that was 4. But one of them got cracked. So there they are. That's my 3 eggs I got today. Jesse Talbert. Yes, congratulations, Jesse. He's a fellow Arizonian right now, but he's leaving the state, I reckon. Fortunately. So I'm gonna do one more show. I'm gonna show you some other stuff here real quick. I'm gonna go into the I forgot I had some other pictures here that I could show you. I thought it was my nugs next, but it wasn't. Yeah, you ought to actually be interested in this. So hang on. I'll dial it back a little bit. Ding, 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 ding. All right, let me come back to my, where's it at? Zoom control. All right, hit the share button. All right, I should be able to see this now. I got 3 little ponds behind my house, behind the garden. And one of them actually finally collected a little water. I don't know if y'all are seeing that or not. There it is. Yeah, I see you're seeing that. Oh, slow. All right, so that's one of my 3 little ponds, like 3 little pigs. That one don't have so much water in it because that one's just downstream of this one. And so that one gets to collect the most. This one, not so much, but the one below that, no, that's not the one below it. That's the top one, I think. Yeah. No, that was the one below it. It's the bottom one. Yeah, it's got a fair bit in it. But that'll all, these ponds are probably going to have to fill up and drain out a few times. What they'll do is they'll transport silt in that dirty water. And the more they silt the bottom of the pond, it'll eventually seal it. It's going to take a few times. Either that or I could spend a lot of money on pond liners and have a lot of plastic material on the property eventually, which I don't like that idea. Or buy a lot of bentonite clay and put that down. That's very expensive. Or put hogs in there. All right, you can see when you walk around it there, you get all kind of stuff. Footballs start accumulating on your feet. Now I took this picture from my bedroom window, and I had never been able to see water in this wash before. That was this morning. There was probably more water this morning than there was later. You can see that's a pretty wide amount of water. And at that point, the wash isn't quite as deep. That's on the upper end. But you can kind of see the water ruffling around here. There's little rapids. I could actually hear it this morning. It was rushing and making a lot of racket. So there was little rapids there. This wider here instead of this narrows. It narrows down shortly and makes that canyon. But here's a little wider, and she's running fast and furious. That's just another picture, the same thing. Like I said, I took these through my bedroom window. Now that's my main pond. That's my biggest one. Now, all this was made level, and this part right here sunk a little bit. Unfortunately, this is the spillway we made here. And I've been worried if we get too much water in there, it might, if it were to come over the top of that, it would wash the dam out. It would take a lot of water to do that. Now, we're supposed to get some more rain tonight, maybe in the morning. I seriously doubt if it'll be enough to wash that out. It could happen, but I don't think it will now. And I don't think we'll have another storm like this until next monsoon season, about September next year. Now, monsoon season starts a little earlier in southern Arizona, but not up here. And by then, I hope to get it fixed. I got to do some road work so I can get a skid steer. And I've had 100 people tell me, "Well, get a shovel and wheelbarrow out there, or get a machine." I couldn't get a machine out of my place because of the hills you got to drive over were solid wet with clay. Nobody would deliver one down before all the rain, probably. But or make sandbags, guys. I get 4 hours sleep a night on a good night. I'm exceedingly busy. It takes a lot of time to bring you this. So I can quit doing YouTube, quit my day job maybe, and then lose everything. But that would take an enormous amount of time to do manually. I could get a sandbag, especially. I mean, I could get a wheelbarrow and come here and dig some of this up and wheelbarrow it around. But right now it is so muddy around there, it's hard to walk around. Very difficult. I'd already knocked a bunch of stuff off my shoes before I got to the house. That's what I recumulated in the driveway. So, yeah, this needs to be built up. I will get a machine here to do it. So, but you can see I got a spillway here, and we made the spillway real nice with rock in it, going all the way around where it wouldn't touch the dam. But this part settled down, so it needs to be reinforced. See where a little water's been washing down here, creating a little gully. And my roads going in and out of the place, I got major gullies running through them right now, because this water's already washed them out. So that just gives you a little idea there about the ponds. Oops. Oh yeah, that's kind of our weather forecast. I'll take this morning or something. That's our temperatures. That's for Snowflake. Now I'm a few miles outside of Snowflake, quite a few miles outside, actually. I ain't gonna tell you which way. I'm gonna tell you where I live. But yeah, that's pretty typical of what we're looking at. But when it's getting down to 36 Thursday, it may be colder out here. I'm not sure. Sometimes it's warmer out here. Sometimes it's colder. I could get a frost Thursday, which is kind of late for around here, actually. But I hope not. I hope it waits. Hope it don't frost that night, because it's not going to be that cold again for several more nights. I want my squash to grow as much as possible. Anyway, let's stop the share again. All All right, we'll check the chat room now. Jess, it'd be cool if you could dam up one of those washes. That's what that dam's on. It's on one of the washes, not one of the big washes. Now, I don't know how you contain that when you get a big flood in there. It'd probably wash out. And all the neighbors complain. Yeah, if you dam that up, everybody'd be complaining. There's only one point where I own both sides. Actually, where I was standing then, I own both sides. I own a little bit on the other side. So it's my property over there. But if I dammed it up, it would be backing up on other people's property, taking the people downstream would probably be unhappy. I don't know. Have a good Sunday. Yes, New Days. Glad you were here. Let's see who's in the house. I may need to check my email a little bit, see if Kim Possible. She said she can't always be on the phone when she's in the house. And so if somebody's made a donation, I'll give them credit. 1 second after. Hello, everybody. That's a good title for a prepper. One and all, Jesse. Timothy Bibb. Hello, Mr. Greggs. Finally got another notification. I'm glad to know that. A lot of people aren't getting notifications. I mean, everybody needs to click the notification button, but you need to check back on the channel from time to time just to see what I posted. Oh, yeah. Victor, how you doing? All right. Any art in the house? Any Northeast art? Northeast Arkansas? So what that is? Amy V. Sergeant Major Phil. Good to see you, Sergeant Major Phil. Pakistan will give Afghanistan something. They ain't waiting. Well, yeah, they got nukes, but I don't think they'll use them for that because I don't think they need to. Hey, we got 12 Bravo Georgia in the house. Very good. And Rodney from down under. Matt. Carol waving. All right, let's see. Just try to go through these. Yeah, so the coffee club members, yeah, we're done with the main news. We have been for a little bit. Sorry, I should have said that. When I started showing pictures, the news was over. But you might want to see those. Now, the reason, well, Carol, where do you think that the Taliban's got some dream of having a big caliphate and getting some nukes? But the reason, so the guerrilla forces, the Taliban, basically the terrorists that are in Pakistan, were attacking Pakistani soldiers. The Pakistanis retaliated, and Afghanistan retaliated for that. Tit for tat. That's how things escalate, be the feuds or wars. You know, there's a case in the news a couple days ago where a woman held a door open for another woman, being polite. It's just a little tiff because that woman didn't say thank you for opening the door. And they got into a spat. The one that opened the door wound up pushing daisies. Tit for tat, escalating. No one would have imagined that an act of politeness, opening the door for somebody, would wind up in somebody no longer being with us. Some kid losing their mom. Some husband losing his wife, maybe. I don't know if she's married or not. I think she had kids. They buy China's planes and missiles. Pakistan does, yeah. Prepper Nation H. Preparation H. Prepper Nation H. The U.S. needs back in Afghanistan for the opium. It's just short on supply of morphine. Oh, Lord. Well, you know, our hospitals use that stuff. I had heard of the news down here that the Australian government is trying to build up to 1.2 billion rare earths to trade with their allies. That's good. That would be really good. Hope you get it. But see, the thing is, it takes time. We need that stuff right now. And since we don't have it right, and we're on the verge of not having it right now, it may be a signal that China's willing to make a move on Taiwan like right now. If not now, it might be this spring, the next time the sea states are calm. But right now, they got calm sea states over there. It may take a few months for, all this to percolate into us not having the weapon systems we wanted, especially getting the war with Iran, behest of Israel, which we need to stay out of this stuff. Have a feeling drugs play a big role in all these conflicts. Yep. Oh, there was a chip plant being built in Ohio and Utah. Well, they were building one in Arizona, but TSMC kind of started backing off. They got afraid if they moved 50% of their manufacturing here, that the United States won't defend Taiwan because some that we won't need them. So they started backing off on that. Oh, yeah, I should have said that in the main part of the news. I've been meaning to talk to that. But if suddenly they can't send us anything, it ain't gonna make no difference. Even if they put a plant here, it's still them getting the stuff from China, and China's not gonna let them have it and send it to us, even if we make it here. The only way it's gonna work is we come up with our indigenous supply, our mines, and actually the refineries to make it. And that takes time. And Australia apparently is working toward that. Hope they make it, but it ain't gonna happen overnight. So there's a window since China started this clock. There's a window how long it takes to get these things set up and then get them in products and put them in our armaments, our missiles. Might be a year, might be a little bit longer. It gives China time, even if they just mess it up for a few months. And then suddenly, oh, okay, we changed our mind. It may be too late. They messed up our distribution, our supply chains, and by next spring, China may say, "Oh yeah, we're good. See, we'll let you have it again." But it's too late. If they're planning a move like next spring, boom, they can be planning a move now. This is a month that they get good sea states, October and April, in the Strait of Taiwan. Best time for an invasion right now. Maybe again in April. China will have no buyers. If China pulls, if the United States and the West works together to cut them off from their main markets, they're going to be hurting. That's how they lose the trade war. And it could have been doing this could have been political suicide on them because we might just, we should just decide as the West, we don't need them anymore. They're too much trouble. They wiped out our industries, they wiped out our economies, they made us totally subservient, and now they're trying to pull the carpet from under our feet as we stand. This is what they had planned to do all along. Now we see their true colors. We should say, enough of this, bye-bye, and just quit it, leave them completely. We shouldn't be conditional. Well, if you play nice and you come back and you bring the toys to the party, no. Cut them off. Cut them off and put them off the slate. Like chop an onion and then you swipe it off the board into a bowl that you're going to cut with. No, just cut them off. Be done with it. So, China, you done showed us your true colors. We're done with you. As long as the CCP is in charge over here and nothing. You get rid of the CCP, we'll open it all back up. As long as the CCP's in charge, no. Turn China back over to the Republic of China. Yeah, that would work. All right, Rodney, thanks for being with us. Marsh Rabbits, lithium is worse than lead, might explain some odd behavior. Yeah, lithium, I think it's a lack of lithium that makes people get kind of angry. So I used to tell people they didn't have to worry about that because I had a big pile of aluminum lithium in my backyard with the D6 rocket I used to own. Get there firstest with the mostest. Matt, amen. Amen, Matt. General Nathan Bedford Forrest, that was his philosophy. Get there firstest with the mostest. He never won a battle he was engaged in. Never lost a battle, excuse me. He never lost a military engagement. His forces were surrendered by a higher level general. That man didn't lose. He didn't lose. He was like Patton. He didn't lose. General Nathan Bedford did not lose. That's right. We're not out yet. It would take war mobilization of something of similar magnitude to even create the necessary changes. Well, that's what we need, Edge Brand Agency. We need a mobilization to make sure we can come up with the critical resources we need. But when you can't make your armaments, you're there. You really need to do something. When your economy is suddenly suffering because you can't get these critical chips, oh, yeah. But then that means we're making a lot of this other stuff elsewhere because every time we buy something from China, we're building their military. Then we got to pay for our military to defend against their military. So it's not just that cheap price you're paying. You're going to pay taxes on trying to defend yourself from what they bill or the money you send over there. So it's not just the price you pay. I like all this good cheap stuff we're getting. If China was a nice player, okay, fine. But they're not. I read Freedom to Choose, which is a book written by shoot, I'm getting brain lock again. Freedom to Choose was written by written like 81, 80 to 81 time frame. Anyway, an economist, somebody will tell me a little bit. Major economist wrote Freedom to Choose, and it was for free trade, but that was predicated not on military stuff, just purely on economic. We're not in a purely economic sphere. It's a economic war. Most chips for AI. We claim we'll lose if we lose the AI race, that we lose to China and we're done. So this could be China's way to take us down, guys. They got so many ways for coming at us. It's not funny. Yeah, they want that manufacturing place. That's right. But if they take China, they got to break in the first island chain. It gives them better, freer access to the Pacific. So it's got a military advantage to them. And they can better staging point from which to attack Japan, the Philippines, or to put a better chokehold in the South China Sea. They claim the South China Sea is theirs, all of it, and that they can control who goes through it. You go through the South China Sea with your trade, Japan, then you got to pay us a tariff. You got to pay us a bounty or whatever they call it. Oh, yeah. And you're going to have to surrender to us if you want to trade with anybody. See, that for Japan, this would be catastrophic if they took Taiwan. Comment thing or whatever. Oh, I did a video on that on my Galactic Greg's channel. Check out one of you mods. Put a link to my Galactic Greg's channel in the chat room. Redstone blows. I think maybe it wasn't an accident. Oh my God, Redstone Arsenal's huge. Blowing the whole place. Yeah, it takes several nukes to do that. That's a big place. Yeah, I worked there for years. I remember the Marshall Space Flight Center is located on Redstone Arsenal. Now they got a big FBI facility there too, a couple of them. This decision I ever made, stopped watching mainstream television years ago. There you go, Jesse. I did too. It's all garbage. Brainwashing. Castle Bravo, 1954, was the largest nuclear test ever conducted by the United States. That's right, 15 megatons. They didn't realize how big it was going to be. They thought it was going to be smaller. They were shocked. Scared them. That's so strong. Yeah, automatically makes me remember the movie Running Man without Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be Bach, or maybe Beethoven. A lot of plate movement except the U.S. West Coast. Be alert. Yeah. I mean, it's just tensions just keep building up more on the San Andreas and the Cascadia subduction zone. And now they're sending a link. One may go off and the other may go off. And the Mount Rainier is just sitting on a hair ready to go off. And what we saw in the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia was when they had that big earthquake, the volcanoes went off. I would not want to be in, if you're in Seattle, what are you doing there? Seattle is going to be no place to be. Not today. There's a lot of things we don't have control over, but you can control where you live at. You can move away from Cascadia subduction zone. You can move away from being downstream of the horrors that come off of Mount Rainier. But all this worry idiocy, you just got to find you a place to dig in where you got the least threat. Get away from the big cities. Mark, it's not even flattish. The earth is not flat. Snakes are good eating. There you go. Yeah. Rattlesnake. Well, eel. What was the eel like, Juanita? Timothy was going to say three. Change my feed. What are you talking about there, Sergeant Major Phil? Change my feed. Oh, well, I'm feeding the chickens. Feeding the same thing my predecessor that had them before was feeding them. He was getting more eggs. I think a lot of it is, I'm told, because they've been moved, they got to get readjusted. They're not comfortable yet, but they'll start laying more down the road. Of course, we're coming in the wintertime when chickens won't weigh as much, and there's also been a transition from hot weather to cool weather. There's several factors in there. But these same chickens were making 11 to 14 eggs a day, 12 hens. Need our world's going crazy. It's a massive Verizon outage. Could have been vandalism. Could have also been a dry run for something bigger down the road. And you knew how you doing. Hold your enemy. Amen to that. Yeah, Carol, I've been hearing that too. Three Gorges Dam hit that will hit China hard. That's the way they need to think. I blow a kiss to China. Oh, they built all my junk. Yeah, they built a lot of junk. Thank you there, Chris MMMM777. Yeah, they do. The Chinese have this concept of Middle Earth. You know, it's now CCP doesn't claim is atheist, but they don't really go against this precept because it's a Chinese way of thinking. There's gods, there's Middle Earth, and that consists of the Chinese people, and there's the rest of the earth, which is us. Kind of like the Jewish people believe in, their people, and everybody else is goyim, which is us, which is something less than a dog. At least that's what I've been told. Some sources. Saxon and Riverstone. Well, I've heard, a lot of tribes, they think they're human and the other people are something else. That's a typical thing that's been around tribes and groups of people. I'm not trying to pick on anyone. That's just been an ancient way of thinking. That's what most people probably in justified wars and everything else is you belittle the other people. We're people. I don't know what these guys are, but we're people. We're the humans. All right, Jeremiah, both civil wars, World War I and II. Yeah, you quit watching TV there, Randall. Oh, we're down in the chat room. both civil wars. See, and make sure when you move, it's one place. You've all been played, according to Jeremiah. I think smart folks like Greg to help me make decisions. Well, thank you, Juanita. Hope I'm guiding you well. Oh, you think Augustus Caesar came from Jesus? Augustus Caesar was earlier, wasn't he? Arthur. Yeah, good. Yeah, Caesar Augustus was actually during the life of Jesus. King James. Anyway, it was Julius Caesar and then Caesar Augustus. Then Nero and Caligula. They had some nasty emperors. Commodus was the philosopher emperor. He was the good one. Commodus. Anyway, so there we are. My friends, going through the chat room. I want to check one more thing, just see if I'm going to check my email. In case somebody's in the house that decided to send a donation that way, I want to give credit if there's any credit due. Apparently not tonight. No super chats or donations tonight. Oh well. All right. Bus checking just to make sure I don't get Scooby Snacks. Good seeing you now, Scooby Snacks. All right. We'll call it a night. It is 3 o'clock in the morning here. I got to get in bed because that sun comes up at 7. It's going to wake me up. And I got to, it usually takes me an hour to get to bed when I do these. I got some things to do. About the Chinese army way of thinking. Anyway, so thank you, mods, for keeping the channel clean, for sharing links. Ran Hiv again. And Phoenix. Oh, okay. Take it. Let me pull up a radar here. Hang on. I have where I'm sharing my apps on my phone or computer eventually. Let me look at the radar. Oh, I don't want to share it. I'd have to be careful. It might give away exactly where I live if I did. Well, we got a little bit rain. Yeah, I said it is heavy rain in Phoenix. That might come my way. I just hope it don't break my dam. I don't think that will. That's just a line of rain. Yeah, it's raining hard in Phoenix. I got a little bit coming my way. All right, so that shouldn't bust my dam. All righty. Oh, I went to Friday. I went to Flagstaff. I drove through it when it was heavy. And I think they closed that Interstate 40 down after I went through. I was looking, there was water nearly up to Interstate. There was side roads that followed the interstate. There's places that were covered over with water. And the washes had some of the bridges that were just full of water running underneath. It was like, you can see a bridge and it's total water coming out like that, which means it's backed up on the other side. So I was like, whoa, there was places it was intense. A lot of rain. When I got Flagstaff, it was not raining so hard, but between here and Flagstaff was a lot of rain. In fact, I was kind of aggravated because I wasn't getting no rain here. I mean, the entire trip driving back, everything was soaking until I got to the end of the pavement that turns to the dirt road where I'm at, and a little bit down the dirt road, maybe half a mile, then it was dry. So everything was soaking wet till I got here. I've been watching rain all around me for a long time. It's like, why is it not raining here? But right now I think I've got all the rain. Well, the property needs rain. I just don't want my dams washed out. Of the one down there, the big one. So anyway, let's call it a night. Jeremiah says, I am also of the Knight Templars that ended in NS Canada. But O'Connell is wrong. It was a decoy. Cape Breton, this is true. Oh, O'Connell was a decoy. Well, they apparently put a lot of stuff in there, but they never found anything. A lot of shouts and things buried deep. Well, it must have been an elaborate decoy. They never really found anything because there wasn't anything to find. Looking for the Templar's treasure. Anyway, thank you, mods. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure you subscribe, bang the bell, and click all. And come back and check occasionally to see if I aired something to get a notification of. How long we've been going tonight? Pretty good while. I won't sit on this. Anyway, I'm getting sleepy. So, once again, to one and all, wherever you are, a good night, good day. It's still night here. Some of you guys it's day. And with that, I'll say ho, ho, ho.